So the training side of things has certainly exploded, hasn't it?
Absolutely.
Which is in one sense why we're sitting here today.
That's right.
And that's maybe a good point at which to sort of perhaps think in terms of, some perhaps key messages or sort of ideas, things that you learned, things that you might want to get across to perhaps a younger, eager audience. One of the first perhaps you mentioned is the doctor's dilemma, as you call it, when going on an expedition.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, that point is that if you go on an expedition as a doctor, you've lumbered yourself with a role which could, if you're going there as a mountaineer and you want to get to the top of the mountain, by taking on that role, you're basically handicapping yourself, and the medicine has to come first. And there have been unfortunate incidents, rare, but in the past there have been incidents where that personal ambitions got in the way of good medical care for the group. So that's what I call the doctor's dilemma. You can use it to get on these trips, but you might find it curtails your ability to achieve some personal ambition.
And any particular sort of hints or messages for perhaps somebody going on a trip, an expedition for the first time, sort of pitfalls and how to avoid them?
Yeah, heaps of them. I mean, the first third of my book is preparation and prevention, and so there's lots of hints and possibilities. But I mean, major things is I think that first of all, why are you going in the mountains? What's your motivation? I mean, there are heaps of motivations. It's to get away from your partner, or have a bit of adventure, or you love the wilderness, or you want the money or the fame, or there are endless sort of reasons for it. And it's really important to know what your motivation is. It's vital that you understand your motivation. And running on from that, I think going in the wilderness, to me, it's such a fantastic opportunity to learn more about yourself and explore your psychological makeup and improve your mental and emotional stability. And I would advise people to actually take on these roles with the idea of, or doctors to take on this role with the idea of actually self-exploration, to make themselves not just better expedition doctors, but better people. And I would advise them to, if necessary, get some feedback on their psychological makeup from appropriate people, because it can be a difficult place to learn about yourself when you're actually out in the field. Because often you get a lot of feedback.
Not always the feedback you want, perhaps.
Well, it's often the feedback you need, but you need to process it in the appropriate way. And another point is that, who looks after the doctor when they get ill? And they may be ill, injured, getting depressed, getting frightened. You might have some of the typical illnesses that go with certain environments. And it's absolutely vital that doctors have someone to confide in or keeps an eye on them. Basically, you know what the buddy system is. You pair people up and you set up the buddy system in the appropriate way so that any doubts are fed directly back to you as leader or doctor, rather than shared between the two buddies when everything gets downplayed by the person who's feeling unwell. And the doctor should be definitely have a buddy, because they're often, doctors themselves don't admit to getting ill, and everybody else on there, no one's going to ask you, the doctor, how are you doing, how are you feeling? That's something I've noticed over 40 years. You never get asked, how's it going, doc? You just you're assumed to be absolutely, made of steel. And it's really important for everyone's sake, especially the doctors, to have someone who's keeping an eye on you and giving you feedback and just checking on you that you're okay.
And how do you deal with, I mean, sometimes on a trip, particularly if there's large numbers of people just getting bombarded almost randomly or incessantly about medical stuff. How do you find time to, or how do you work it to get a bit of a break, to get your own headspace?
Yeah, well, yeah, of course, because it's often intimate situations where, you've only got a tent to hide in or whatever. And there might be a few people or many people, big groups, school groups. So, you're available 24 hours a day, open shop for any emergencies. If in doubt, come and see the doctor. Otherwise, if it will wait, just set a couple of times, in the day when you'll see people. On a small group, on a short trip, you don't need to do that. Really, it's a big group or for a long period. You need to kind of break it down so that you're not doing histories over your breakfast, lunch or dinner. Yeah, so that would be the one basic way to survive that aspect of it.